Hey everybody, it's Natalie and I'm finally back with a card video. This is the card we're going to make today, but first I need to make a little disclaimer. My children 2 days ago came home with this little guy. So while I'm doing this voiceover, because he's so tiny, I do have him in my lap, so you may hear a few little whimpers and a little distraction. Anyway, I had said a while back that I was going to start doing my take on card kits. This is the stamp set from the SSS Stamp April card kit. I went through my craft room to see if I could find some stamps that I already owned to try to do my take on the card kit. Now these first two stamp sets I showed you, I used to package my stamp sets this way when I first started stamping, and it did not dawn on me that I should have been writing the names down. So those two, I do not know where they came from. This one, however, is almost perfect, and it's Lawn Fawns, and it's called Flutter By. Also in the card kit, you got two Distress Oxide inks, the new ones, Squeezed Lemonade and Mermaid Lagoon, which I do not have, so I did get out the two regular Distress inks of them, but I did go through my Oxide inks, and the closest that I could get were these two, the Fossilized Amber and the Broken China. I did not end up using any of those, though. Also, a while back, I had gotten this fuse tool paper. You can fuse this together. It's like plastic. I really thought this striped pattern right here went really well with some of the striped pattern papers that are in the card kit. So I am going to use this. It'll be my first time. I went through that pack and I picked out this striped one and these two, and I did end up grabbing one more color when I kind of, through the video, I decided I needed one more. So I went ahead and cut out some pieces that we're going to start with to try to help shorten the video. I do have this yellow piece of cardstock. I do believe I tried to match it as close as I could to the yellow in the fuse paper, and I have cut this as a top folding A2 size card. Then I cut a white panel that's 1/4 of an inch smaller all the way around, so you have a little bit of a border. And then I decided I wanted to have this kind of in the top corner, and I wanted it to be layered. I've already glued these two pieces together, but I used this Sizzix die borders. You can see here, I'm going to show you what all comes in it. But I picked these two. So for the plastic fuse paper, I used just the regular line, this one. And then I tried to match a piece of cardstock. I think it came from from Stampin' Up. And I used the other one. It lines up perfect together to make the ones with the little dots. And then I glued those together. So I decided to use just the greenery from that red rubber stamp, and then the rest of them are going to come from the Flutter By. And I'm going to use some black memento ink, and I'm just going to stamp out 2 or 3 of each of the butterflies and some leaves from that Flutter By, and then 3 or 4 of the greenery. I'm using the black memento ink because I am going to Copic color. So now that I have them all stamped out, I am going to go ahead and get out my Copic colors, and I'm going to do some coloring, and I will meet you back here when I'm done with that. Okay, everything has been colored, and I already cut everything out. I left this one little spruce of greenery because I'm going to show you how to fussy cut that out when you don't have the die. You can also see I cut out all the butterflies, but I did go ahead and make this chart. I held that striped piece of paper up to my Copic coloring chart, and I picked some of the best colors that I could. I did not use these E ones down here, but if you want to use the exact same colors, I would go ahead and pause the video and write these down. So I want to show you, well, for starters, you can see here that I do have the die to cut these out, but not everybody does. So I wanted to show you when you have something that's got like little tiny antennas or something like that, I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and cut those off, and then we can make them later. But first, I want to show you how to make this look like the other. That made no sense. Okay, as you can see, this would be really hard to fussy cut out because it's just a line. Cut it out as close as you can without cutting it up. And then I'm going to show you how I made it look like the others. First of all, anytime I fussy cut something out, I take this Memento black ink marker. I only use this for this, and I go around the edge of everything. It covers up that white and it makes your fussy cutting look perfect. You can also see that this marker is kind of drying out, and that's perfect for this. So I'm just going to take my marker and I'm going to start coloring in all the white going down the center, and because it's black, it also covers up the black ink that I stamped. And I'm also then going to go back up it, and I'm going to kind of flick it in onto the leaves. That's going to add a little more shadowing, give it a little more depth. And because this marker is kind of dried out, it's not just saturating the paper with ink. That would ruin it and you wouldn't get this subtle look. When I am done with that, I am also going to do like I do with all my others. I'm going to go around the outer edge. And again, that is going to make it look like it's been perfectly cut out. And it's going to look really nice. So now that we have all of that done, I was trying to decide kind of in my head what I wanted to do. I decided that I wanted some flowers peeking out from underneath this panel. So I laid my panel down, and with a pencil I just drew a really light line so that I would be able to tell where to stamp. Then I'm going to get out my Misty stamping tool, greatest thing ever, and I'm going to lay out my stamps. Now these green things are masks. When I make masks, I keep them with my stamp set, and I like to use my masks to lay out my scene, which is what you see me doing here. It makes it very easy. You can visually see what you're going to have when you're done. So I'm just going to keep laying them out until I get what I think that I want. And once I have done that, I will be stamping with Memento ink, black ink again, because I'm going to Copic color these as well. So I don't want to do a whole lot because I'm going to have a lot of butterflies and stuff. And I know that the card kit didn't have flowers in it, but I just really thought this would look cool. So now that I know that's what I want to do, I'm going to, the other cool thing about the masks is you can lay the stamp right on top of it, close the Misty door, and it picks it right up exactly where you want it. Then I just remove my masks and I can start stamping. And because I'm using the Misty, I can double stamp. So I get really nice black lines and I don't have to spend a lot of time lining it up perfectly. I absolutely love my Misty. So I am going to double stamp this with the Misty using some black Memento ink. Once I have this stamped down, I am going to put the mask back on the smaller little flower. When you are layering, you always want to stamp first the one that is going to be closest to you. And then you put your mask over it. And I can get out the other two flowers, lay them right kind of where I want them, flip that Misty door over to pick up the stamps, and then I can double stamp it again. And that mask is going to keep it from stamping over the other little flower. And then it will have it'll have depth. So again, you do not have to have one of these tools to do it, but oh, it makes life so much easier and I love it. So here's what it looks like. I can go ahead now that everything's good and dry and remove that mask and you can see what I have. I am going to erase my pencil line and then I'm going to Copic color and I'll be back. So here we are. Everything has been colored and none of this is glued down. I've just kind of laid it here and I'm just going to work it out and figure out what it is I want to do. But first I'm going to show you how to put those little antennas and legs back on your butterflies that you cut out when you were fussy cutting it. This is some very thin craft wire and I'm just going to pinch it in half like this to make two little antennas, cut it with my wire cutters. And then I'm just going to grab anything that you have on hand that's really tiny and I'm going to use it to bend the wire around to make little curls. This just happens to be a bamboo skewer, but if you happen to be a jewelry maker, which I have done in the past, you may have, I made this ring, you might have something that looks like these and they make perfect little round circles. But again, you don't have to have them. What I like to do is make the little round circle and then use my fingers to finish rounding it off. Once you have those like you like it, put a very small dot of hot glue. Be careful not to burn yourself. If you are a child, maybe you should ask a parent for help. And then I put one more dot over it, so it's got glue under it and on top of it. And there you have it. How cute is that? And now it gives a little something else to your card. I'm going to do that to the rest of the butterflies, and this one also had legs on it, and I did the exact same thing. I just pinched it in half and hot glued it. And there you have it. So while I was doing that, I got to looking at that fuse paper, and I thought, how cool would it be to actually use some punches and punch out some little flowers and some little butterflies. So these ones are by Stampin' Up, and I'm not sure the brand of that one, and this is an old Stampin' Up. So I just picked out some papers. You'll see this is where I added that yellow one that I told you about, and I just punched out several little butterflies. Because I have two different size butterflies, I put the small one on top of the big one, and I fused it together, and it gives your little butterflies some depth. So I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm actually going to do it with flowers though, because I made two of these butterflies. So I'm going to pick out two pieces that I like, and I think this is going to be them. And you'll see here, I'm doing this on the fuse mat. I'm not doing this on my cutting mat. It'll melt it. The fuse mat is a silicone mat, and you do not have to leave this on there very long. I'm just going to make a tiny little X right in the center of the flower, and it melts it together. Again, this paper is like plastic, so don't leave it sitting on there very long. You can also take your bone folder then and kind of give it a little curl and give it some depth. So I'm going to do this with maybe one or two more. I'm not going to use all of these because I don't need them. And what's left, I'm not going to toss. I just put in a little bag and save it with my punches. So I'm going to let you kind of see my process that I go through when I'm trying to decide how I want to start putting all these elements on the card. Again, nothing is glued down, the panels or anything. I just have all my little pieces, and I'm just going to start working it out in my head, kind of where I want things. I sort of have an idea, but you never really know if that idea is going to work till you start actually working it out. So I actually spent quite a bit of time on this, so I was only going to let you see me start a little bit, and then I'll show you when I get it done. And here is what I'm pretty sure I want to go with. Okay, so I am going to get out my Tombow. This is Tombow Mono Multi-Glue. I put it in this little bottle because I like it better. And I am also going to use some foam squares, like 3D foam squares. I've got two different levels here. And I'm going to start putting my card together. So I've used the Tombow to glue down anything that I'm not going to pop up. Make sure when you glue your panel on that you're gluing it on right side up and not upside down. I have done that before. This part I am going to pop up on some of these 3D foam squares that are a lot higher than some of the other ones I'm going to use. Now just make sure I line that up nice and good and then press it down. Now these foam squares are dimensionals by Stampin' Up. They're not as high as the other one. I like these two. So you have different levels of height. So for the butterflies, I used the little foam squares, and for a lot of the greenery, I glued it right down. Now for this little plastic flower and the little butterfly, I used the fuse tool to attach it to the striped fused paper. So you didn't even have to glue it, you just use your tool. So now I need a sentiment, sorry. I'm going to use Hello from this stamp set by Paper Smooches called Scripty Sayings. And I'm going to heat emboss this right on top of my card. I'm using some Nouveau Enchanted Gold embossing powder, and this is my embossing powder, or embossing tool. This makes sure that no embossing powder sticks anywhere else except for where you want it. So I have my Versamark ink, and I'm going to stamp the word hello right onto my card. In retrospect, I should have done this before I did anything else, but I kind of forgot about a sentiment altogether. This was a last idea. I like to tap my embossing powder like this before I dump it off. It helps more embossing powder stick to your ink. And then with my heating tool, I am going to emboss it. Now, this plastic melted. If you can see it, it kind of curled. This is what I meant by in retrospect. So I realized that I don't have a lot of glue under there. So what I did is I got back out my Tombow. I lifted up this edge a little bit, put more Tombow, and then held it down. And you can still kind of tell there's some wrinkles there, but it's only if I point it out to you. Now let's bling it up. This brand right here comes from AC Moore, and they're really cheap. I really like them. And I decided that I wanted to put those on the center of the two flowers. They do have sticky on them already, but when I'm sending something like this through the mail and it's got this much bulk, I like to go ahead and glue it down with some glossy accents. It just makes me feel better. It may stay and ship fine. I don't know, but I'm doing it anyway. And that is glossy accents that I have in that little bottle. It's another one of those little bottles that I like, and I just transfer it into that. So once I have these two glued down, I also lay out some sequins. I've told you guys before, I see beautiful cards by amazing, talented people, and their sequins always look so pretty, and I struggle so much with mine. But once I've played with it for a long time, and I think I've decided that I've got where I want it, I just use my tweezers and some glossy accents. I just put a dot of glossy accent and then pick up my sequin with the tweezers and set it right down on top of it. And I do that with all of them. Okay, we almost made it through the whole video, but little Nash has woken up, so you may hear him. But here is our card for today. I have to say, I really enjoyed trying to come up with what I already own to recreate the card kit for this month. And I am, if you guys really liked that, I think that, oh gosh, the puppy. I think I'm going to keep doing that. It doesn't always have to be Simon Says Stamp. If y'all have a card kit that you've seen and you would like to see what I can come up with to redo it, please leave me that description in the bottom. I will tell you, if you'll see on some of the butterflies, they're shiny. That's because I did put some glossy accents on it. Oh my gosh, y'all. Woo! And I used some Wink Stella, which is kind of hard to see on video, but is really pretty person. Sorry. Remember, you can find me on Facebook at Treasures of Minnie Craft Corner. You can also find my pet beds and things that I make on Etsy at Treasures of Minnie. I'm also on Instagram at Treasures of Minnie. I think that's it right now, but I really hope you guys enjoyed the card. I would love to see what your thoughts or your takes on it are. And until next time, hugs and loves from my craft room to yours. Bye. And Nash is saying bye too.